Last week, Nazar asked me a question. He said, how do we teach critical thinking in the class? And yeah, I was on the spot. So I'm like, okay, what can I say? And I think I mentioned a few things. I said, okay, well, you've got to ask open-ended questions. You've got to give students the opportunity to ask questions. You've got to relate it to their real life so that they can feel invested in it. And also you should use project-based learning where, you give them a problem to solve and they can analyze and to do it. Today, I want to talk a little bit more in detail about how we as teachers can teach critical thinking. And I want to start it with a quote from our boy Benjamin Franklin. He said, "Tell me and I'll forget. Teach me and I might remember. Involve me and I'll learn." And I thought, wow, that's a great quote for critical thinking. It makes us think, right? So as teachers standing in front and imparting wisdom on the students, and I feel like I get into it sometimes with you guys. You can see, sometimes it's good. Sometimes students need to hear that information. But other times I feel like sometimes teachers just babble on to get, because they've got something they want to say. So we have to move away from there. And, we could teach them. We could say, oh, this is how you do it. This is what you're doing. And I think that is important. I'm going to come to that now. It's very important to give detailed instruction to your students. But the best way we can actually teach them critical thinking is to involve them and to make them part of something bigger. That way, they learn by doing, and that's the best way to learn. Okay, I was looking up some interesting information about what critical thinking is, because critical thinking is one of the things that a lot of teachers talk about. If you're in a meeting somewhere, the principal says, we have to improve critical thinking. It's such an important part of teaching. Here's the big problem. I was looking at this information. Let me read to you. So they did a major study among schools, and they said the study showed that most faculty considered critical thinking to be of primary importance, to be very important to instruction, 90%. However, only 20% can actually explain what critical thinking is. So I think that's the important place to start from. Let's first define what critical thinking is, and then from there we can look at how can we teach it in the classroom and some extra techniques we can use. Okay, so what is critical thinking? And there's a quote here. Critical thinking refers to the ability to analyze information objectively and make a reasonable judgment. It involves the evaluation of sources, data, facts, observable phenomena, and research findings. Good critical thinkers can draw reasonable conclusions from a set of information and discriminate between useful and less useful details to solve problems and articulate critical thinking. There are basically 5 strategies to teach critical thinking. If you have some kind of lesson that you're doing in class, or you've got a project or some type of work activity that you're doing with your students, you can compare. What is compare? You look at the similarities between things. You can contrast, that is you look what the differences are, analyze, you break it into parts and you explain it, categorize, you put it into different parts, and then evaluate. And I think especially in today's milieu where, there's so much fake news, for teachers, I think the most important thing is teaching our students how to use information, and also to understand that information also comes from an angle. Someone can give you information from a certain viewpoint, and there is a reason for that. So we have to understand that, we have to take that into account. And our students shouldn't believe everything. They should actually, analyze it and then see what the value is and why.